when you bend to give me comfort in the night. So I gotta have your word on this, or none of it is true. And all I've said
25 before the hour. Jennifer Warnes, right, doing Leonard Cohen there. For all our Leonard Cohen fans, Kathy's playing this music because it is Valentine's. And in keeping with that spirit, our sponsor this hour, back to the Childhood Comprehensive, or the Comprehensive Child Development Act, which was something put together 42 years ago by Walter Mondale and a handful of other senators. It passed the Senate by a fairly wide margin. Richard Nixon vetoed it. And the question that Gail Collins brings up is, supposing it would have passed, supposing 42 years ago, quality, comprehensive early childhood education would have been instituted in this country. The plan was to provide not just the education, but also the extras that go with education, especially for families who were struggling back in the 70s. I don't know how many people remember the horrific recession we had back then. But the federal government on this program would set the standards and provide backup services like meals and medical for the kids and dental checkups. Gosh, what a communistic idea. And tuition, it was going to cost. Tuition would depend on the family's ability to pay. But Nixon vetoed it, and even after an attempt, or I should say, after Nixon was resigned in disgrace because of what he was, and Gerald Ford took over, the supporters of this early childhood education idea tried to get the plan activated again. But all of a sudden, hundreds and hundreds, and as Gail Collins points out, sometimes thousands and thousands of hysterical letters accusing Congress of plotting to destroy the American family. Just like, if we have marriage equality in this country, it's going to destroy the institution of marriage for heterosexuals. All of a sudden, the whole thing is going to come crashing down. If we have Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act, then there will be death panels, and you'll have to march grandma and grandpa in front of the death panels, and they will all wear black hoods, and they will point to one of two doors. One door has an X on it, and the other door has a picture of Jesus, and nobody knows what's behind either of the doors, but you will be condemned to go through one of them. No? None of that's true? As Mondale said, all of this was really the beginning of the Tea Party. The right wing started to turn on this thing viciously. They said it was a socialist scheme. They were really pounding the members of Congress with their letters, and a lot of people got cold feet. End quote, Walter Mondale. Now, part of the lies that were being put out by the right wing back then was that children would be allowed to organize labor unions. Children would be allowed to go into court to sue their parents for making them do chores. And the right-wingers, the mouth breathers, the people who listen to Fox and the murderous Hannity and the murderous O'Reilly and the murderous Beck and the murderous Limbaugh, believe that kind of garbage here 42 years later. It's incredible. Now, regarding that letter campaign, back then nobody really knew where it was all coming from. What is this? So a reporter, according to Gail Collins in the Times this morning, a reporter for the Houston Chronicle traced all this hysteria back to a man in Kansas who had written a leaflet based on information that he'd received from a revival service in Missouri, which he told the reporter for the Houston Chronicle he had since learned was almost all completely wrong. But the damage had been done. A revival service. There we are again. The negative, horrific impact of religion in this country. There it is again. There it is forever. Man will never be free until the last king is strangled with the entrails of the last priest. There it is again. But that was it. Later, people would begin proposing modest preschool programs, particularly for the offspring of poor women, who were required to work after the repeal of welfare entitlements in the Clinton years. You remember good old Bill Clinton, right? But there would never again be a serious attempt to guarantee all American families access to quality early education and after-school programs. Now, this president proposes doing something for 4-year-olds. Great idea, right? And Mondale, old man who gave so much of his life in the service of the country. I mean, say what you want about Congress, say what you want about Democrats and so on and so forth, but keep in mind that Mondale's day was 40-some years ago. Mondale still is certainly enthusiastic about this. Obama's enthusiastic about it. What do you think's going to happen? Huh? How soon before the religious right psychopaths and sociopaths in this country start screaming to not let this happen? Huh? And how quickly do you think the members of Congress who might be interested in supporting this will absolutely collapse? And there it goes again, this time forever. Now, by coincidence, or maybe not, also in this morning's New York Times, an article about how few states are looking to extend preschool to all 4-year-olds. Surprisingly, Georgia is one of the states that has made a decision that it is going to provide preschool for all children in this state. I mean, knock me down with a feather? Georgia? Only 5 states, including Oklahoma and Georgia, have a stated objective of offering preschool slots to all 4-year-olds. Now, somebody can make an argument that that's about a year late, but, you know, half a loaf, better than no loaf, right? Now, supporters say that this plan, early childhood education, free or minimal tuition based on a sliding scale. But here in Georgia, it's free in the sense that it's paid for out of the lottery, the state lottery. Supporters say the plan is a way to help level the playing field for children who do not have the advantages of daily bedtime stories and music lessons and counting games at home. You know, all those things that you may have provided for your children or now your grandchildren that so many kids in this time, in this day, and with the right-wing ascendant, the kids just don't have. It's not there. Both parents may be working 4 jobs between the two of them. Critics, of course, right-wingers argue that providing universal preschool could result in federal money being squandered on ineffective programs. Really? Education squandered. Well, it's been estimated. Now, who made the estimation? Yeah, here we go. The Center for American Progress, a left-leaning research organization, estimated that providing preschool for all 3- and 4-year-olds in the country would cost over 10 years about $98 billion. Let's round it up. $100 billion, $10 billion a year. Do you know what percentage of our spending on weapons of death and destruction 10 billion is? The last budget was $750 billion. It was close to $800 billion for this year, not for 10 years. For fiscal year 2013, $800 billion, as opposed to about $10 billion, which would cover every 3 and 4-year-old in the United States and provide them quality preschool education. Now, what was it? The right-wingers said that universal preschool could result in federal money being squandered on ineffective programs. What is the most ineffective program in the history of the human race? What would it be? War? Department of Homeland Security? Death? Destruction? How about drones? You know what's going to happen to this country, don't you?
There used to be a gray and